George Pickens no longer part of the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, things have officially shifted into high gear behind the scenes. The team now faces a pressing challenge, identifying and securing the right wide receiver to line up opposite DK Metcalf as they head into the highly anticipated 2025 NFL season. It's a pivotal moment for Pittsburgh. They know what's at stake, and while fans are still reeling from the departure of Pickens, the front office is already evaluating the next big move. This situation is bigger than just filling a roster. Spot! It's about retooling the offense with the kind of firepower that can compete deep into the postseason. Early this morning, a significant update emerged regarding the Pickens trade, which sent shockwaves through the Steelers fan base. For those who missed it, it's time to start paying close attention because things are going to move quickly. There's no room for hesitation during this critical part of the offseason, and Pittsburgh knows it. They need a number 2 receiver who can produce, contribute consistently, and take pressure off DK Metcalf, who now assumes the clear WR1 role on the depth chart. Let's start with free agency. I'll say it up front. There aren't many surefire solutions left in the open market, but there are still a few intriguing options. Going through free agency has its obvious advantages. You're not at the mercy of another franchise's willingness to negotiate. You're not giving up draft capital. You're sitting across the table from the player's agent trying to get a deal done. And when you're working with veterans who are still unsigned at this stage, you often find guys who are willing to take a pay cut just for the shot at playing meaningful snaps again, especially if they can lock in a legitimate WR2 role in a stable offensive system. Now, let's talk names. There are a couple of veterans out there that I believe are being slept on. Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen. Yes, both are over the age of 30, and yes, neither had a standout year last season. But let's not act like these guys are washed. Cooper, for instance, still has elite route running chops and brings experience from inside the AFC North, which means he's already familiar with the kind of defenses Pittsburgh faces twice a year. Just 2 seasons ago, Cooper put up more than 1,200 receiving yards, caught 5 touchdowns, and averaged over 80 receiving yards per game. He was top 10 in the league that year in multiple categories and made defenders look silly with his footwork and timing. Last year? Sure, the numbers dipped. He battled injuries, was traded mid-season, and had to build chemistry with a new quarterback on the fly, and that connection never truly clicked. Even then, he managed to surpass 500 yards receiving. That says something. He still wins at the line, still finds soft spots in zone coverage, and can still turn the routine 10-yard out into a 30-yard gain. Now let's zoom in further on Cooper, because I think he's a name that's flying under the radar. He might not be the alpha anymore, but that's not what Pittsburgh needs. What they need is a reliable technician who can work the intermediate routes, open up the field, and punish teams that shade coverage toward Metcalf. Cooper can absolutely fill that role. And remember, you're pairing him with a physical freak like Metcalf, which means Cooper would draw CB2s more often than not. That's a mismatch in Cooper's favor almost every time. Add to that the presence of Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, young guys who are still developing. And suddenly, this receiving core starts to look a whole lot more complete. Speaking of route runners, Keenan Allen deserves a mention too. He's one of the smoothest players to ever do it from the slot. And even though he's dealt with his fair share of injuries, when he's on, he's still a problem for defensive coordinators. 2 years ago, he was over the 100 reception mark, put up over 1,200 yards, and was averaging just shy of 100 yards per game at one point in the season. That's production any team would love to have from a secondary option. And while last year wasn't as dominant, he still had multiple games with over 100 receiving yards and showed flashes of that old brilliance, particularly in games where the offense gave him a high target share. If Pittsburgh wants a technician in the slot, a guy who can create separation with timing and angles, Allen is still one of the better bets out there. The only real question is durability. Can he make it through an entire season? Because if he can, he'll give you reliable hands, elite football IQ, and a veteran presence in the locker room. Between Cooper and Allen, I'd personally lean toward Cooper for his ability to stretch the field a little more and his familiarity with AFC North defenses. But if the Steelers decided to go with Allen as a savvy short to intermediate threat who knows how to get open and move the chains, I wouldn't be mad at that either. Either player would instantly raise the floor of this passing game. And let's not forget about Gabe Davis, a younger option who was recently cut and might come cheap. Davis has always been more of a boom or bust guy, but he's got big game potential, and he's proven that in the postseason before. You bring him in on a one-year prove-it deal, and he could end up being a home run if he fits in the system. The thing with Davis is that you know exactly what you're getting. He's a vertical threat, capable of taking the top off defenses. He's not the most refined route runner, but he doesn't need to be. If your offense can scheme him into single coverage down the sideline, he'll win enough of those matchups to make the defense respect him. And if you're the Steelers, that kind of deep threat can open up space underneath for guys like Pat Freiermuth or a slot receiver working across the middle. Plus, Davis is a willing blocker, which matters in an offense that wants to run the football and set up play action. So, to recap this part of the process, free agency still holds value. And while the names might not be as exciting as they once were, they can still play. Pittsburgh would be smart to explore those options thoroughly. You don't need a superstar. You need a veteran who can complement Metcalf, run crisp routes, and show up when it matters. Whether that's Cooper, Allen, or Davis depends on what kind of offense they want to run and what the budget looks like. But all three bring something unique to the table. Now, before we pivot to trade scenarios, and trust me, there are some fascinating ones to get into, I want to quickly address DK Metcalf. With Pickens gone, Metcalf becomes the clear face of the Steelers' receiving corps. There's been speculation about whether he'll reclaim the number 14 jersey, but early indications are he'll stick with number 4. That doesn't change the fact that he's now the centerpiece of this passing game, and whoever comes in next will have the benefit of playing across from one of the most physically dominant wideouts in the NFL today. Metcalf's presence alone changes the way defenses line up. He commands double teams, bracket coverage, and pulls safeties out of the box. That opens up so many opportunities for whoever lines up opposite him, which is exactly why Pittsburgh has to get this right. The next guy doesn't need to be a star. He just needs to be smart, dependable, and able to take advantage of the space that Metcalf creates. If the Steelers can do that, this offense instantly becomes more dynamic and more unpredictable. The pieces are there. It's just a matter of finding the right fit. And now we shift gears to the trade market where things get even more interesting. When it comes to the trade market, things get a little more complicated, but also a lot more exciting. Unlike free agency, trades involve a lot of moving pieces, draft picks, cap space, and whether other teams are even willing to entertain offers. But the upside, that's where you can land difference makers, especially if you're bold. And for the Steelers, there are a few names floating around that could seriously elevate this offense if a deal can be made. 2 names stand out right away: Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tyreek Hill? Really? But let's break it down. There's been some speculation coming out of Miami that Hill could be available under the right conditions, especially considering his off-field situation and his contract structure. If the asking price is a 3rd-round pick, and keep in mind Pittsburgh has 3 of those lined up for 2026, then why not explore it? We're talking about a player who's still one of the fastest, most explosive threats in the league. When Hill is locked in and on the field, there are maybe 2 or 3 defenders on earth who can keep up with him. Yes, there are character concerns. Yes, there's risk involved, but there's also massive upside. Hill remains one of the top 5 wide receivers in football, capable of changing the outcome of a game with a single touch. His yards after catch numbers are elite. His route running is better than people give him credit for. And his big play ability is unmatched. If you're serious about contending and you can get him without mortgaging your entire draft, you at least have to consider it, especially when George Pickens left behind a gap that needs filling with both production and swagger. Then there's Brandon Ayuk. We've talked about him before, and he continues to be a popular name in trade rumors. Ayuk is younger, carries less baggage, and has quietly developed into one of the most reliable receivers in the league. He plays with grit, blocks hard, runs crisp routes, and has excellent body control. He'd be a great fit in this system, and the Steelers wouldn't have to completely break the bank to make it happen, though it would likely cost a 2nd-round pick. Still, for a long-term solution at WR2, Ayuk makes a ton of sense. And with DK Metcalf drawing coverage, Ayuk could absolutely feast against lesser matchups. Beyond the headliners, there are still some intriguing names worth monitoring. Green Bay, for example, is stacked at wide receiver and might be open to parting ways with one of their young talents. One in particular, a former standout at a major college program, has the size, speed, and route running potential to become a legitimate number 2. Yes, he's dealt with drop issues, and yes, there have been some minor injuries, but the upside is real, and in the right environment, he could thrive. Same goes for a young wideout in Indianapolis, a second-round pick from last year who flashed real talent in limited opportunities. With the Colts adding more weapons in the draft, it's possible he becomes the odd man out. If Pittsburgh is looking for a cost-effective, high-upside trade target, that might be the call. And there's one more name floating around, a slot receiver who's been rumored to be on the outs despite a strong showing last season. He's not a deep threat, but he's a yards after catch machine and would add a totally different dimension to this receiving core. So, with so many options on the table, from superstars to hidden gems, the Steelers have real opportunities here. It all depends on how aggressive they want to be. This could be the offseason that defines the next chapter for this offense, and if they get it right, Pittsburgh might just surprise a lot of people come fall. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In an unexpected and electrifying turn of events, Baker Mayfield has joined the Pittsburgh Steelers, sending waves of excitement throughout the NFL. The seasoned quarterback, known for his fiery passion and unrelenting drive, has now switched allegiances, and his arrival has already begun to reshape the atmosphere around the team. For years, Mayfield has been one of the most polarizing figures in the league. His journey from the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma to becoming the number 1 overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft with the Cleveland Browns was marked by high expectations and moments of brilliance. While his tenure in Cleveland had its ups and downs, with flashes of greatness followed by inconsistency, Mayfield never backed down from criticism. His brash confidence and outspoken nature have made him both a fan favorite and a source of controversy. But there's no doubt that his competitive spirit has been a driving force behind his career. Now, after being traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mayfield finds himself in Pittsburgh, a city with a storied football tradition and a fan base known for their passionate support. The Steelers, long considered one of the most successful franchises in NFL history, are entering a new era under the leadership of head coach Mike Tomlin. The team has undergone a transition in recent years, with the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger and the search for a new quarterback taking center stage. Mayfield's arrival in Pittsburgh is more than just a roster move. It's a statement. The Steelers are looking to reassert themselves as Super Bowl contenders, and Mayfield's experience, along with his fearless style of play, makes him a potential game changer for the offense. While he may not be a perfect fit for every team, Mayfield's aggressive approach could be just what the Steelers need to reinvigorate their offensive unit. Pittsburgh fans, known for their passionate and loyal support, are already buzzing about the potential impact Mayfield can have. His strong arm and ability to make plays under pressure have the fan base hoping that he will be able to carry the Steelers to new heights. But it's not just about his talent on the field. Mayfield's arrival also brings a renewed sense of energy and excitement to a team that has often relied on its defense to carry the load. For the Steelers, who have faced some challenges in recent seasons, Mayfield's arrival could provide the spark they've been looking for. Whether he can deliver on the promise of his potential remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Baker Mayfield's presence in Pittsburgh is already shaking up the NFL landscape, and fans are eager to see what comes next. As the new chapter of his career begins, the anticipation surrounding his debut with the Steelers is palpable. This could very well be the start of something special for both Mayfield and Pittsburgh. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.